probably going to be for the year about, they haven't been able to open it. Even now with the order at 50 people inside, the community center can hold upwards of 120 people if it's full. And so they're unable to open it, and not sure when they will be able to reopen. So their funding's estimated to be down about 14,000. Of course, you could take away some of the expenses of maintenance and cleaning, that they won't have. So overall, maybe $11,000 to $12,000. They're estimating that their funding will be down. So we just have to keep an eye on that, and maybe I think that maybe some of the COVID-19 funding that we'll receive, maybe we can replace some of that income, because that is budgeted income that they need to maintain the park, and it's going to be down. So we just have to watch for that. I want to thank Sue again for the excellent report. The EDP does a lot for the county, and I'm glad to be a part of it. They represent the county really well and do a lot of marketing and job attraction for the county, and I'm glad that the commission is supporting that. Other than that, I don't have anything to report at this time, unless people have questions about anything that I've reported on. Thank you.
I have a question, Julie. This is Ruth.
Okay.
You said that the community center was closed and the capacity is 120. So 50% would be 60. Can they still open it and just keep 60 people or less in there?
Well, the governor's order right now, Ruth, states it's 50 people or less. And really, they don't, how would you police that?
Okay.
They don't, I mean, it's not really, and it's not just that, it's not just the number of people and trying to police an event, but also, the whole cleaning responsibility between events and, the other things that go along with the order. It's just not really feasible to have it open and allow people to have events at this point.
Okay, so it's 50 people, not 50%.
Right. Yes. For these types of events, indoor events are limited to 50 people or less at this point, according to the governor's orders.
So the restaurant, it's restaurants that's 50%, and this is not a restaurant.
Yes, 50% of their, yeah, this is not included in that. This is an event center.
Okay. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Julie, did the road commission discuss how they're coming or what the plan is as far as the brining of the roads?
They've already started that. They have completed some townships. It started just recently, and they're continuing to work on that as they can, get the people in here. So far, we've just begun it, but so far I believe it's going pretty well in the townships that they've done. It's moving very smoothly.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Julie? Okay, thank you. Ruth, we'll move down to your report, please.
Okay, I want to talk about the preparedness plan that we passed at the last meeting. And what happened was I started getting some feedback from a few of my constituents that, and I know we had this conversation at the last meeting. So this is somewhat on the constituents also. But the feedback was that they thought that the plan was for businesses in Hillsdale County, that we were trying to tell businesses what to do, and it's not. So I sent some proposed changes to the plan out to the commissioners on your email, where I'm trying to clarify it to say County of Hillsdale, County Government of Hillsdale, county buildings it applies to, and like that. And you all have that, so I'm not going to read all that right now, but that's what I'm proposing to try to clarify that we're talking about the county buildings. Now this as far as I'm concerned, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but this, I understood that our risk management required this document. And it's, as in my view, it's to keep our employees safe and also visitors safe that are coming into our building. So we're trying to mitigate the spread of the virus and doing all these things that we're doing. And so it's for our county buildings and our county employees and visitors, nothing to do with businesses in Hillsdale County. So I'll stop and let you guys discuss this and see what you think of the proposals. Thank you.
Board meeting. Bye.
So Ruth, I talked to Doug. He's unable to be on today. Something came up as far as 911 and some of the equipment. But he indicated to me that if you want to get with him directly on the proposed changes, he could look at that. Him and I also discussed, it sounds like one of the issues may possibly be Appendix A, but he wanted to look at that. We could strike some of it, but he thought there was some of it that we needed to keep in there. So I guess my suggestion is at this time, since this is a working document, that we bring back a amended version after he has been able to go through it, because we've also gotten some updated information from MMRMA. There's been some changes linking different parts of this to some sections of OSHA and MyOSHA. So we need to incorporate that language. So I guess what I'm saying, Ruth, is at this time, I'd like to bring back an amended version with your recommended changes, with NAMU's concerns, as well as the most recent changes that we've gotten from RMA for the next meeting, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll get with Doug.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment.
Please.
I do appreciate that you're saying, I know there was talk of removing certain parts of the document. I don't think we should remove anything since this template was recommended by MMRMA, but the parts that don't apply to us, such as when it refers to businesses in the governor's order that's quoted in the plan, we could do strike throughs rather than remove and just say that this doesn't apply to county government. I like that idea, but leaving the document intact.
Okay, duly noted. I will make sure Doug, is anything that we eliminate, Julie, would be something that might be misconstrued, as to businesses, not county government. So. Bear with me a minute. I was just handed something here, so. Okay, so we lost the live stream on WebEx for a few minutes, but we're back. Looks like we're back up and running. So just, we apologize to anybody that was on, and hopefully you're still on, but technical difficulties, but David said he's got those resolved. So anything else, Ruth, that you want to share with us today?
No, I'm good. So you want me to get with Doug then?
Yes, if you would, or email him your items, and I know him and I can sit down and go through it. And if we've got, in the same way with, I know NAMU had a couple concerns. If you want to email that stuff to both Doug and I, him and I will put this together and bring it back as the latest version, if you will.
Okay.
We'll try and make the clarity and keeping in mind what Julie's comments as well. So,
Okay, thanks, Mark. I'm
Thank you.
good. Thank you.
all right. Any questions for Ruth on? Ruth, have you been doing anything with suicide prevention? I mean, how's that been working during this crisis?
It's back up and going again. We didn't meet at the beginning of COVID-19 in April. We didn't meet, but we did meet in May, and we're meeting in June. And we've got Insa Raymond, who is at MSU Extension, on board with us. And she's an asset. She got interested when we did Islands of Wellness, and she participated in that. And when we were done with that, she said she wanted to stay on our board. So she's working with us and she's helping us. And we're doing good. We're working with Jackson County, and we're working on suicide prevention every day. We're doing good. We're keeping up
Good.
depression support too.
Say that last again.
We do depression support once a week now. We were doing it less often than that, but now during COVID, we're doing depression support weekly.
That's good. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm waiting for the, yeah, we're trying to kill 2 minutes here. It's hard to start into somebody else's report.
Will you let Ruth, I will try to get the death certificates, the suicide death certificates to her today.
Ruth, I don't know if you could hear that, but
My name's Jody.
Jody. I had technical difficulty. Jody will try and get you the suicide death certificates sorted out or get the number to you today. So,
Okay, great.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jody.
You're welcome.
I think by the time we get a motion to go into the hearing, we'll be all set because my iPad says it's 9:59. So I would like a motion to go into the public hearing.
So moved.
Hearing.
Support.
Who supported, please?
Julie.
Julie, Namu made the motion and Julie supported. Do we? Discussion, I guess. So we'll go for the vote and please proceed, Jody.
Commissioner Carolyn? Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley?
Yes.
And Commissioner Caswell?
Yes.
All right. We have now entered into the public hearing, truth and taxation hearing. Bruce, would you like to open with any comments?
Well, no, we hashed it all over 2 weeks ago, so it's basically what we do every year. It's what Village of Jonesville, City of Jonesville is doing. It's what the Village of North Adams is doing. It's required under state law to accept the inflationary, quote unquote, increase in revenues and through the property tax system. The Headley Amendment's already rolled back the millage rate. And basically the budget that we voted on last December stated by yours truly that if you vote for this budget, you're voting to accept the inflationary increase because that was figured into our budget. And so that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Nick, are you on?
Yes, Commissioner Wiley, this is Nick Wheeler. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Would you like to make any comments?
Oh, no, I think Commissioner Caswell put it just right. Last year, just to summarize, the total millages for the county, including the general operating and the various voted millages the taxpayer or the voters have allowed through medical care, senior services, ambulance, and mental health. Last year was levied 8.0489 mills, and as Commissioner Caswell mentioned, because our tax base grew by more than the rate of inflation of 1.9%, that permanently reduced millage is now 8.002 mills. That is the authority you guys as a board have to levy after the Headley rollback. Now, this public hearing today, further, if you did not have this hearing, you would further be required to reduce that by a 0.223 mils, 234 mils overall, because the overall tax base, again, grew by the rate of inflation. So that's what the hearing is today, is for members of the general public, taxpayers, voters, to convince you as a board of why you should reduce your millage back so you're only collecting that same revenue that you levied in 2019. So I hope that helps a little bit, and I can answer any questions if there are any, or try to answer.
Nick, this is Nemo. I have a question for you.
Okay?
So in regards to this operating we just talked about and the increase of 0.2234 mils, for the operating tax millage rate. So when we levy this, will there be any chances of the taxes that will increase this year, or will they remain the same?
Well, no, anybody that had the rate of inflation of 1.9%, if you pass the maximum allowed, each one of those tax bills will see a slight increase in their taxes of approximately 22, or it would be 22 cents, or less than 22 cents per $1,000 of taxable value. So yes, if people look at each of their line items from last year's tax bill, if you levy the maximum allowed, their taxes for each one of those lines will be slightly more this year.
So Nick, is it fair to say that with this levy today, as we have this public hearing today, the taxes will increase roughly 22 cents, correct?
Well, that's in addition to what you would otherwise have to reduce them. Otherwise, people would pay, roughly 22 cents less or than they did last year. So if you did not approve, would be less than it was last year. For these amounts, keep in mind, each taxing jurisdiction is different. You only have authority over the various ones at the county level. Because like the ISD, keep in mind, had a millage voted, so, that's a different tax body that governs that tax collection or taxable increase.
Mr. Chairman? This is Julie.
No,
I'd
Go
like to,
ahead.
I'd like to just make a comment. I've heard from many constituents in my district, and I've also discussed with the county treasurer concerns over property tax bills in the coming year, not only this year, but next year, which is what, we're setting the tax rates for. And I did some research, and pertaining to just the county allocation that we're currently presenting today at 4.9239 mils, if we rolled that back 0.1032, that would equate to giving the taxpayers a net zero, basically, on our part that we control over last year. And so it's not asking to roll it back the full 0.2234, but that, on just the county aid, so the proposed, resolution 20054, if we rolled that back 0.1032, that would, equate to approximately slightly less than $150,000 decrease in the county general fund revenue, but would allow the taxpayers to remain at the same rate, basically, as they paid in 2019. It's just an idea as an alternate proposal, because many of the constituents are concerned. I'm a realtor, as most of you know. I'm concerned about it. A lot of people are not back to work, as Sue stated in her excellent report, Sue Smith from the ADP today. You know, our current unemployment rate is 37%. Now, we do all expect that to bounce back pretty well, but I still think we're going to end up at an unemployment rate considerably higher than before we went into the COVID-19 crisis. So there's going to be problems for people paying their taxes. And this is something small that we can do that doesn't have a too bad net effect on the county revenue. Thank you.
Well, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone listening in from the public who would like to make a comment?
May I make a comment?
Sure, Sue, go ahead.
Well, you know, if that is something that the county commission does indeed want to pursue doing, what Julia just mentioned, I think, you know, there is an income, obviously there's an income effect for you that's negative, but perception, which is what most people live on and is their reality, I would market that very heavily to the community if you do that, because I think when they see the increase, they always think it's all you. And if you do something to create a lower cost for them, though it might not be a real significant, I think it helps to clarify for people, because they don't understand. They don't understand that they voted all these millages in and their taxes are going to go up. They just don't get it. But if you're going to do something, I would make sure they clearly understand you are doing that as the county, because that's a good perception value for you, I think.
Thank you for those comments.
I think I would like to concur, Mr. Chairman, with Sue, what she just mentioned. And today, what has happened is that this notice of public hearing on increasing property taxes, clearly I don't see anybody from my district, because they had a lot of concern. And as county officials, we're so conscientious with so much that's going on, that the unemployment rate has increased, as we heard it with the EDP today with the presentation. And of course, a lot of criteria has been placed upon us, but yet my concern is that the public hasn't been very fruitful in saying anything today, simply because they couldn't make it because of the virtual meeting that we had over the WebEx. So that has been a little concern, because clearly the idea for our public to have their say in this, and it's not happening today. So my really quick question is, if we have no control over what Lansing does, as what I understand. We have no control over the inflation rate, but as county officials, we do have the ability to at least have a open hearing for the public in regards with this. Do you think it's a possibility for us to do anything other than today levy it? Can this, and if we don't levy, what are the repercussions?
Well, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but this pretty much is a timetable we've got to concur with as far as moving forward.
Yes, many years ago, the legislators moved the county operating millage to the summer tax levy, and bills have to be issued by July 1st because they're payable July 1st. So, you know, in this office in particular, and like I say, I'll accommodate whatever needs to be accommodated, but, you know, we print for all but 2 of the units in the county, and so you can imagine 30-some thousand tax bills being printed in a few days is not very fun. So, but anyway, yes, there is a timetable that sometime, hopefully by the end, you basically have to set the millages within 6 days of the public hearing is the way the statute reads. So that's the timetable, 6 days from the public hearing.
Thank you, Nick. And commissioners, just for your information, when we set this, I contacted the radio station. I had David send the information as far as the WebEx connection and the phone number. I also reached out to Russ at the radio this morning, and he was going to announce it again. And so there is a phone number they could call in on. Also, the WebEx connection they could call in on. So I did everything possible to make sure it was on the county webpage as well. So if anyone wanted an opportunity to speak today, I think we've done everything we could in these different times to reach out. So with that, is there any public that would like to comment?
Mark, this is Stephanie. I'd like to comment that it was also in the Daily News in a very large ad.
That is correct. Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Please go ahead.
Nick, how many parcels approximately do we have in the county? Do you know?
That are taxed, yeah, there's about 33,000 parcels total in the county.
Okay, thank you.
And agriculture probably makes up a lot of those, don't they, Nick?
You know, it's actually probably not, because keep in mind, those parcels are large in mass, so it's the small parcels on the lake in the cities, the villages, those add up pretty quickly.
Well, that's true.
I do have a couple stats here that I don't know that it really helps make any decisions or not, but I broke down the taxable values of all the parcels in the county, and 70% of the parcels in the county have a taxable value of 50,000 or less. So like I say, I don't know that makes any difference here. It just tells you that the majority of the parcels that are affected by the tax bills, you know, are of 50,000 or less. So like I say, I just found that interesting, probably not real pertinent to your decision here, but.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Nick, did you say earlier, I believe you said earlier, that we're talking about 22 cents for every 1,000?
That is what this hearing subject today represents, that roughly a little over 22 cents per $1,000. So essentially, if you had a $50,000 taxable, that would be a little over $10 from what this public hearing is representing today.
Nick, now being an old math teacher, forgive me for correcting you, but I think if you take the 50, which is 50,000 times the 22 cents, yeah, you get $11. So that's what we're talking about per parcel.
Correct.
Or less. Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, bear in mind that when we passed the budget back in December for 2020. And Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but the point, what was it, 2234 was figured into that budget?
Yes, it was figured into that budget, Mr. Chairman, and like I said earlier, it was explained at the hearing when we passed the budget that if you voted for this, that you were accepting the inflationary increase because that was part of the budget. So if we, yeah, that's what we did.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anyone from the public wish to weigh in? I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Do I have a support?
Support, Julie.
Thank you. We will be voting. Jody, go ahead.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines. Yes. Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell. Commissioner Carolyn.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. We are back to committee reports, and we'll go right to Bruce for the long list of resolutions spreading the taxes of 2020. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the first is Resolution 20049. To the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we respectfully submit the following report and recommendations for the spreading of the taxes for the year 2020. Taxable value ad valorem is $1,411,505,455. Special voted is the 2004 Senior Services. It is 0.4936 mils, a little bit less than a half a mil. The tax revenue for the Senior Services Fund on this voted millage would be $696,719. We recommend that several supervisors be authorized to spread on their respective ad valorem tax rolls and special act tax rolls the amount of county tax apportioned to the several townships, villages, and cities of the county as provided by statute. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell, and I move for the adoption of this resolution.
This is Ruth, support.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, ask a question to Bruce, please.
Go ahead.
Bruce, so today's, what we've just passed, this resolution is in conjunction with the public hearing that we just had, correct?
That's correct. This is the first
Thank you.
resolution of several that we will take up and vote on. This particular one is for the Senior Services Center. Voters back in 2004 voted a half a mil. It's now 0.493 mils.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Jody?
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell.
Yes.
I need Commissioner Caswell, please.
Yes.
Commissioner Carolyn
Yes, now.
and Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
All right. First one passes 5-0. Please continue, Bruce.
Resolution 20050 to the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we respectfully submit the following report and recommendation for the spreading of the taxes for the year 2020. Taxable value ad valorem is $1,411,505,455. Special voted is the 2008 Senior Services Levy. The millage rate is 0.4968 mils. Tax revenue for the Senior Services Fund on this would be $701,236. We recommend the several supervisors be authorized to spread on their respective ad valorem tax rolls and special act tax rolls the amount of county tax apportioned to the several townships, villages, and cities of the county as provided by statute. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Support. This is Ruth.
Thank you. By Bruce, supported by Ruth. Any discussion on 20-050?
I have a question again for Bruce, Mr. Chairman, please.
Go ahead.
So the resolution 20050 looks quite similar to the senior services, the one we had a resolution for 20049. For the fact that the 2 years are different. Could you slightly explain this to me?
Yeah, the voters of the county passed millage for the Senior Services Center in 2004. And that put the building up. And in 2008, other millage was passed by the voters of the county. And that added up to the senior center, provided more services. Each of these were individual millage that were passed by the voters at the time. And both were half a mil when they started. This one is now 0.4968 mil, so it's a little bit less than a half a mil. So it's two different millages, and because they were voted at two different times, they have to be dealt with in two different manners.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions on 20-050? Hearing none. Jody?
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes?
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carolyn,
No.
Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Gaines.
Yes.
4-1.
Yep.
Resolution passes 4-1. Please continue, Bruce.
Resolution 20052 to the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we respectfully submit the following report and recommendation for the spreading of the taxes for the year 2020. Taxable value ad valorem is $1,411,505,450. Special voted is the contracted ambulance service. The special voted is contracted ambulance service capital, and it's 0.1491 mils. The tax revenue for the ambulance fund from this millage would be $210,455. We recommend the several supervisors be authorized to spread on their respective ad valorem tax rolls and special act tax rolls the amount of county tax apportioned to the several townships, villages, and cities of the county as provided by statute. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Support. Ruth.
Moved.
Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
This is Julie. This question is really for Bruce, and it's just for clarification to the public. When the millage was voted on, it was voted as 0.15. Can you explain why it's a little bit less than that, please?
Yeah, the Headley Amendment.
Okay.
Anytime the value of property in a given governmental jurisdiction goes up more than the rate of inflation, and there's all sorts of caveats that I won't get into, but if it goes up more than the rate of inflation, then the millage rate is rolled back so that there is only the rate of inflation increase.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yep.
And so Bruce, so just because the rate of inflation is not something that we have any control over with, is there anything that we could do to change it?
The rate of inflation that is given to Nick each year is given to us by the state of Michigan. They determine it.
Can I add something? This is Nick Wheeler again.
Please go ahead, Nick.
The actual rate of inflation is set by a formula that is part of the state constitution that we voted on. So it's nothing that the legislators in Lansing or, that we can set. It's statutorily set or constitutionally set.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on 20-051? Hearing none. Jody?
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carolyn,
No.
Commissioner Brown. I'm sorry, did you say?
Ruth? Ruth, are you still there?
Yes, I'm right here. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Julie?
Yes.
And Commissioner Wiley.
Yes. Passes 4-1. Please continue, Bruce.
Resolution 20052 to the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we respectfully submit the following report and recommendation for the spreading of the taxes for the year 2020. Taxable value ad valorem $1,411,505,455. Special voted contracted ambulance service 0.8450 mils. Tax revenue for the ambulance fund would be $1,192,722. We recommend the several supervisors be authorized to spread on their respective ad valorem tax rolls and special act tax rolls the amount of county tax apportioned to the several townships, villages, and cities of the county as provided by statute. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
This is Ruth, support.
Mr. Chairman, this is another one just to point out. The voters approved a millage, I think it was a couple of years ago, 0.85 mils. And because of the headline amendment, this is now rolled back to 0.845.
Correct. I'm glad you pointed that out. It's very, very much like the previous one that, as Julie pointed out, was voted on at a 0.15. Both of these were approved by the voters of the county. But due to the Headley rollback, both are a little less than what the voters actually approved. So. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. Jody?
Commissioner Carolyn,
No.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell.
Yes.
That one passes 4-1. Please continue, Bruce.
Resolution 20053 to the Honorable we received the year 2020. Taxable value ad valorem is $1,411,505,455. Special voted medical care facility 0.5965 mils. Tax revenue for medical care facility fund $841,963. We recommend several supervisors be authorized to spread on their respective ad valorem tax rolls and special act tax rolls the amount of county tax apportioned to the several townships, villages, and cities of the county as provided by statute. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Support, Ruth.
Bruce or Nick, I think this one's another one. Back, I believe that was originally 0.6, was it not?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Correct.
Thank you. Just for clarity to stay consistent here. Any comments or questions on 20-053? Hearing none. Jody?
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Bruce, was that a yes?
Yes. Yes, that was a yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carroll,
Did she vote no on that?
she voted no.
Anyone that's not muted when we're trying to do these votes, if you would please mute, it would be most helpful. A lot of static there and we were having a little trouble hearing the votes. But that one passes 4-1. Please continue, Bruce.
Resolution 2024, to the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we respectfully submit the following report and recommendation for the spreading of the taxes for the year 2020. Taxable value ad valorem $1,411,505,455. County allocated 4.9239 mils. Tax revenue for the general fund would be $6,950,112. We recommend the several supervisors be authorized to spread on their respective ad valorem tax rolls and special act tax rolls the amount of county tax apportioned to the several townships, villages, and cities of the county and station tax as provided by statute. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell, and move for the adoption of this amendment.
This is Ruth, support.
Mr. Chairman, I believe, and Nick, you correct me if I believe this was originally when it was set 0.9 and because of Headley rollback down to 4.92 mils. Is that correct?
I didn't hear exactly what you said, but the original mill actually goes back to 1976, which was 5.75 mils.
Okay. Because Headley rollback is now down to 4.92 mils.
Yes, over that number of years, it's rolled back, over 3/4 of.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Julie. May I address the board?
Go ahead.
Again, as I stated in the public hearing, I would move to amend this to reduce it by 0.1032 to total amount of 4.8207, which would effectively overall, that's why I voted for the other, our reduction on our part would effectively overall give the taxpayers a rate that they paid last year, the same rate. It would be a wash, not an increase.
But Julie, I have a question. So if I may,
Just a minute, please, Nemo. Julie, what was so it was a reduction, your motion is for a reduction of 0.1032 to make it a total of what?
4.8207. In the math correctly.
Okay.
So reduced by 1.032 for a total of 4.8207, correct?
It'd be 0.0, not 1 point.
No, it'd be 0.1032 would be the reduction. 0.1032.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then we got
Just trying to get it. We need a support before we can discuss.
I second that.
Okay, now we're into discussion, please.
So back to asking this question. So our reduction would be 4.8207. Is that correct, Julie?
That would be the new amount with the reduction. That would be the new amount that we would levy. Instead of levying 4.9239 as on your resolution, we would reduce it by the 0.1032, making the total amount we would levy is 4.8207. Be a net no increase to the tax.
So in regards with that, the tax revenue for the general fund would also change?
Yes, it would be a reduction.
Mark, if I may,
of
this is
approximately
Stephanie.
850,000.
Go ahead, Steph.
I did the math because I'm at my calculator. That would make the general fund amount $6,804,444, which is a reduction of $145,668. If you want to know those numbers.
Would you please say those again for Jody to write down?
The total to the general fund would be $6,804,444, which is a reduction of $145,668.
Stephanie, if I may?
Go ahead.
So it's 68444. Is that correct? 684444.
6804444. There's 4 4s.
Okay, thank you so much, Steph.
You're welcome.
We're still discussing Julie's motion to reduce that by 0.1032. Please bear in mind, commissioners, that the budget that we approved back in December did include this amount. And as Stephanie just indicated, that would reduce our general fund by approximately $145,000. We would have to, at this point in time, come up with $145,000 of cuts. So keep that in mind, because I don't know where you're going to find those cuts.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
based upon what Nick told us earlier, the first fact that I want to state is that we're talking now about, for 70% of the people in the county, we're talking about $5 a year in taxes. The second statement is, vote on this, I'd like a list of the cuts being proposed to be made by those who would have advanced reduction in taxes. What are those cuts going to be?
That's an extremely good question. Julie, you got any ideas?
Well, first of all, last year, the soil erosion money that we took in was about $10,000. And this year we've already taken in $84,000. So that's about a $74,000 increase in revenue in just that area right there. I think there's other areas that, is Bruce talking? I don't know. Is he asking a question?
Julie, I just want to point out that soil erosion money's already been committed to most of it to the finishing the project there at the courthouse. I'm sure some other of it has been committed to other things, but a lot of that money is going to be utilized over there. So that's, quite frankly, not a very good way to adjust that 145,000 deficit. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
so if we've reduced from to 4.8207. And then in my understanding, as we calculate, we're going to still be $145,000 roughly in short within the general fund. Is that clear? I mean, is that correct?
If we vote in favor of this amendment, we would have to find $145,000 of cuts to the 2020 budget that was approved in December.
Is there any other way we could make any cuts, or is this critical? Because I know you said it was passed in December, so with $145,000 short in general fund, within this criticality, are we going to pursue, if we were to pass this, the way it's been amended just now by Julie and supported by me, are we going to pursue with this amount, or is it going to be critical for us to operate because we fell short in the general fund?
The commissioners voted 5-0 in December on the budget with full explanation that that budget included the 0.2234 increase. So it was, at that time, everybody was aware of the fact that we're anticipating that change in revenue.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Go
Chairman,
ahead.
and I did vote in favor of the budget at that time. Of course, at that time, in all fairness, we didn't know that we were going to have this issue with the COVID-19 shutdown at that time. And I think there's always places in the budget. And I'm trying to do this in the good faith of what my constituents have asked me to do. To not vote in favor of a tax increase for this year.
This is a very nominal increase, and probably most of your constituents that are laid off, Julie, are making more money because of that $600 little bonus that was tacked in than if they were even working. So, you know,
Well, not the ones that I've heard from apparently, because they're troubled about the fact that their property taxes are going to be an issue. And I do know that there's some legislation pending in Lansing that might help them out a little bit, but it's pending and proposed. It's not anything that, you know, has been passed yet at this point.
okay, Mark, I have a question, please. This is Ruth.
please go ahead.
I understand and know for a fact in my years of being on the Board of Commissioners that our Treasurer's Department, was Stephanie now, and before it was Stephanie, it was Gary, and Stephanie has continued, has worked very well and has an exceptional history working with people who are having trouble paying their property taxes. And they work with people on an individual basis. And they give people extensions. And Stephanie is on the call and she can speak better to this than I can. But I know for a fact that our Treasury Department does that. And I think it would be better to have them work. And Stephanie, you can talk about this, work on an individual case by case basis rather than us cutting everybody when it doesn't apply to everybody. Because everybody's not going to have a problem. And also, what Bruce said, now correct me if I'm wrong here I couldn't hear just everything, but it sounded like Bruce said this is $5 a year. Is that right, Bruce?
Based upon what 80% of people in the county, we are talking about the taxes they actually pay going up $5 or less. That's for 70% of the people in the county. And as long as I've got the floor here, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to clarify. We are looking, outside of all this other stuff, we're looking at $150,000 in cuts to a revenue sharing that are coming because of the reduction in the state budget. As I said at our last meeting, the increased money that we're getting through the soil erosion permits is going to be approximately $70,000. At that time, I said it was 60 to 65. It's now up to about 70. That will take care of half of the cut we're going to see from Lansing. So we're $80,000 in the hole based on our budget because of what Lansing's going to do with revenue sharing. And they have no choice because they don't have the money. This proposal will put us another $145,000 in the hole. And my only request is that we specifically state, for transparency purposes, what it is we're going to cut, because we're now looking at $200,000 to $220,000. What is it we're going to cut, so that we know exactly how we're going to deal with this going forward if we should adopt this.
Back to what I was trying to say, Mark. I think that $5 or less for 70% of the people in the county doesn't justify us making this cut. That's not enough money. $5 or less. And not only that, I would like Stephanie to speak to what I was talking about before. Having them
Yes, I
more on
do,
a case-by-case basis.
This is Stephanie. Yes, we do grant hardships for financial difficulty. COVID would be one of those difficulties, I'm sure, this year. Right now, I probably have 85 to 90 hardships that I granted for the 2017 tax foreclosure time. Does that answer your questions?
Bruce and I and Derek have worked extremely hard on this budget for years, and we have cut and cut and cut and cut down. And I just can't see where for $5 or less for 70% of the people in the county that's a real hardship. If it is truthfully a hardship, Stephanie will work with them on a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just comment really quickly on this, please.
Go ahead.
And I think I want to comment on what's been said. In all due respect, I think our treasurer has done a great job, but at the same time, she's had to work with the people because of the problems that the county officials have gone ahead and put this as a millage rate increase. And so therefore they have done their due diligence, as in the treasurer. And if Stephanie has done a great job, and prior to that, Gary, I understand, but they've had to work because of the consequences that were in front of them. So I would like to comment on that. But the fact is that we have the capability, and rightly just suggested, if we were to amend this and cut our general fund for now and work within our means, that maybe we'd be able to get through this, because this COVID-19, nobody was expecting it. And nor did the state expect it, but I think we need to start working within our means. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
This is Stephanie again. If I might add, this particular millage for foreclosure will not happen until 2023. We do accept partial payments to help them pay if they can't pay everything all at once. So that's another caveat to the treasurers helping the constituents.
Stephanie, I agree
Good point.
with that, and it's a good point, but also people have to realize when Stephanie goes into these payment agreements, the people that are paying the taxes are still subject to penalties and interest. So even though she works with them, and I think it's a great program, and she does a great job with it, they still end up paying more if they do the payment program, because there are penalties and interests that come along with that. Like I said, this legislation that they're proposing in Lansing is trying to give people maybe a break from that because of the COVID-19 shutdown, but that's just a proposal. It's nothing that's passed at this point.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Well, any kind of a budget can be set up, and you can spend whatever or you can cut whatever. But going into the future, we're going to, we do not want to accept the rate of inflation millage increase for a year from now, then simply tell me that as the chair of the finance committee, and I will present you with a budget that has an additional $150,000 of cuts in it, so that when we vote on next year's budget, those cuts will be there. So the citizens of the county will know exactly what it is that we're cutting out by not accepting. Now, I've asked a couple times today what it specifically is going to be cut, and I've got no answers. And I understand that. It's always much more fun to cut taxes than it is to cut spending, because when you cut spending, you take away things that the county is used to having and want those programs. That's why they're there. But I can cut $150,000 in another year if that's the budget you want brought to the Board of Commissioners. Cut them. But you know, I've attempted, I and Ruth have attempted to cut a job for a few years. We brought other proposals to the board to cut out worker.
Hey, Bruce, you need to move to higher ground. Your phone signal's breaking up.
It's the quality of the phone signal here in Hillsdale County. When I win the lottery, I'm going to put $100 million internet service here. Is that better?
I heard you.
Better, Mr. Chair.
That last sentence was a little clearer.
Okay. So all I'm saying is, if this is what we want to do, if we do not want to accept this going into the future, tell Ruth and we will present a budget this coming December that has the appropriate cuts in it that we can all vote on. But we were told that we were going to accept it. We explained that last December that we were going to accept it. And so that's where we're at. I've asked repeatedly what specific cuts are going to be made so citizens will know exactly what cuts are going to be made, and I haven't heard any ideas today. So for that reason, again, thank you.
And Bruce, if I may, I think the suggested cut was the general fund, and so that's what was presented as a request to. That was, let's start with the general fund. I know it's hard today, but it's going to be harder next year and the year after.
You guys just.
Nobody knew that COVID-19 was going to do this. I'm sorry, am I echoing?
Commissioner Carlin, just want to make a comment to you. Cutting the general fund is fine. However, the general fund consists of all the budgets for the different departments. So now where do we start picking and finding where that 150,000, which in reality with the projected cut, you know, because of COVID-19, we're really not discussing 150. We're talking about well over $200,000 worth of cuts to different department budgets. So which department or which departments do we cut is really what Commissioner Caswell is asking.
Well, Mr. Chairman, to answer to that question, I think all the departments should have cuts now because general fund does have that ability to take care of all the department budgets. So it looks like all the departments will endure cuts, which I'm sure a lot of departments will not be happy because we were trying to go ahead and have the capital improvement plan in place, which I'd still like to see us have the capital improvement plan to have our ability to increase our general fund.
We won't even be able to do this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I will allow continued discussion, but I just want to point out something that, you know, if we're talking about over $200,000 of cuts, one of the things that this board may have to take into consideration, and I know I'm going to get criticized for this, but I will say it anyways, because, you know, one of the areas that is one of our biggest numbers is wages. And do we look at layoffs, to adjust the budget? I'm just throwing that out there for you folks to think about because Ruth indicated earlier, they have cut the budget extremely over the last several years to make not only for us to work within the dollars we have, but to allow us to do some other projects, that need done. Just like Julie indicated earlier, we're going to have to spend some money out to the house at the park. It's things like that we've got that eat dollars. So, where are we going to find the dollars for that if we've got to make cuts here within the general fund? So any further comments, and then we'll take a vote. But one more go around for comments.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to state that I fully respect the that Bruce and Ruth have both put in on doing the budget. Like I said, this is something that was totally unexpected that happened. Nobody could have possibly predicted it. And I understand that we did accept when we set the budget last year. So I would just say that if we're not going to do this today, that we will take it into consideration, seeing how things go the rest of the year as far as setting the budget for next year.
I would, Mark, this is Ruth. Is it okay if I talk? Okay. Just respectfully speaking, as far as Julie and Namu are concerned, very respectfully, I get what you guys are saying. And I understand that, but I think that our employees, I know for a fact, I've sat in with Bruce on every single budget meeting that we've had. I sit in on all of them. And I know for a fact that our employees have been very frugal and have sacrificed things in their departments that they have needed to have and gotten by with less over the last couple years at least, because we didn't have the money. And Bruce is very frank when we go into those meetings and just says, we don't have the money. And they are very frugal and have sacrificed. And I don't see where we can cut another over $200,000 out of our budget. It's not realistic and it's not practical. And it's not enough of a cost to 70% of the county to have to pay less than $5 more. That doesn't justify it. And the rest can do individual cases with Stephanie. So I understand what your point is, Namu and Julie, but word it practically. Thank you.
Anything else?
Just Mr. Chairman, really quickly, one last.
Go ahead.
If anybody has been hit hard, I'd like to speak for my constituents of District 5. They've been hit really, really hard. So just say, and I won't say anything more.
I think everyone in the county has suffered their own degree or own level of challenges financially or otherwise in the county. So I appreciate your comment about District 5, but I don't think District 5 is any different than anybody else in the rest of the county. So I take into consideration every citizen, all 48,000, whatever the number is today. But
that's right, I concur.
Any further comments? We will vote on the amendment that was proposed by Julie to reduce by 1.1032. Go ahead, Jody.
Commissioner Gaines.
Yes.
Wiley.
No.
Commissioner Cantwell.
Commissioner Caswell.
No.
Commissioner Carolyn.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
No.
The amendment fails 3-2. We are back to the original resolution of 20-054. Thank you, Julie. Is there further discussion on 20-054? I guess I'd just like to make a comment. If I understood Nick correctly earlier, going all the way back to 1976, that number was 5.75, and we're back down to 4.9, basically due to the Headley rollbacks. Was that correct, Nick?
That is correct. The only way you can increase that is to go to a vote of the people.
Yes. So just to kind of keep things in perspective, that number has rolled back over the years. So any other comments on 20-054 before we take a vote? None. Please, Jody.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carolyn,
No.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines.
No.
Resolution passes 3-2. Please continue, Bruce.
Resolution 20-055 to the Honorable Board of Commissioners. We respectfully submit the following report and recommendation for the spreading of the taxes for the year 2020. Taxable value ad valorem $1,411,505,455. Special voted 2018 mental health services 0.4971 mils. Tax revenue for mental health services $701,659. We recommend the several supervisors be authorized to spread on their respective ad valorem tax rolls and special act tax rolls the amount of county tax apportioned to the several townships, villages, and cities of the county as provided by statute. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell. I move for the adoption of the.
Mrs. Ruth, support.
And as we've talked before on some of these other ones, that was a 0.5 voted on by the residents of the county and passed. And due to Headley rollback, it is 0.4971. Any other comments on 20-055?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
So due to the Headley rule, it's reduced to 0.04971, is that correct?
0.4971. It was a full 0.5 that was voted on, and due to the rollback, it is now 0.4971.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Jody?
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carolyn,
No.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley.
Yes. Passes 4-1. Please continue, Bruce.
Well, I think that's all my resolutions. The only other thing I have is Lifeways is proceeding with a crisis residential unit, and they hope to have it up and running by the end of this year or the first of next year. This crisis residential unit will have 2 teams. They'll both be stationed in Jackson, but they'll have a full-time 24/7 service at Hillsdale. And a team will be down here immediately to Hillsdale to take care of any crisis situations with the mentally ill. I also would add that because of Lifeways has repeatedly, now this is according to them, has repeatedly worked with Reading Ambulance Service to transport people. And one of the first objections that Reading had was the fact that the cost transporting these folks to residential facilities, emergency room in Hillsdale, was $1,700 a day, and Medicaid was only reimbursing them like $450. So Lifeways agreed that they the difference between what Medicaid paid and what the actual cost to reading was. They put together a contract, have repeatedly called, have repeatedly attempted to get reading to contract, and they get no response whatsoever. So what they're going to do is they're going to transport their own people. In this provision, they have this crisis intervention center. They will also provide transportation. So that situation will be taken care of because they're doing it with some of the millage dollars that were made available because of the vote of the people of this county. The hope is that with this crisis intervention center on a 24/7 basis, these folks who get into a crisis situation will be removed from the emergency room at Hillsdale and will be dealt with directly by Lifeways. And if they have to get to a residential facility, they can get them there much quicker than what's happening now. So that instead of having somebody sit in an emergency room for 6-7 days, they'll be able to get them there right away. So that'll be much better for the county as a whole. And I think for the people who suffer with this illness, just to abandon people that suffer from cancer, we shouldn't be abandoning people who suffer from mental illness. And hopefully by the time this gets set up, we'll start having proper service for them and be able to take care of them in a much more humane way, in a much more efficient way. They are remodeling their building up in Jackson to make it into a full service center for both physical and mental health care, and that's going on right now and should be done again by the end of the year and be available. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you, and I'll keep quiet.
Bruce, what about 20-057? We added that to your report.
Did you stick that on, Bruce? Okay, this 20, okay, I'll touch on that then. Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate that. 20057 is a resolution to the Honorable Board of Commissioners. We, the Board of Commissioners, authorize $2 hazard pay per hour worked by Hillsdale County hourly employees during the COVID-19 pandemic. The hours worked were recorded over the last 5 pay dates from April 2nd, 2020 to May 28th, 2020. The total cost of this hazard pay will be approximately $73,120. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell. I move for adoption of this resolution.
This is Ruth, support. And I have a couple questions, please.
Okay, before you ask questions, Derek has prepared a worksheet, which all of you have in front of you, and this covers a lot of different employees, and the $73,000 will all be reimbursed under the COVID money that the federal government has sent on to the state. Derek has a worksheet, as I said here, of circuit court, district court, friend of court, probate, clerk, treasurer, equalization, MSUE, maintenance, prosecutor, deeds, drains, sheriff, marine, jail, EMS, and he has it all broken down, and this includes pay as well as including FICA and retirement and all the other things that go in with it. So with that, Derek, go ahead.
I wanted to add is I'm not necessarily sure that all of this would be reimbursed. I know that there is a bill in the House, which we talked about yesterday, last meeting, Senate Bill 690, that discusses hazard pay for specific employees, and it defines those employees in that bill. I believe with us it would be sheriff, deputies, and 911 dispatchers. However, that bill is still being reworked. The last I heard from a MAC representative was that we could expect to see significant changes before that bill is passed. So we really don't know what's in it. Other than that, and maybe Mark, you know more than I do, but I haven't seen where our other employees are eligible for reimbursement through any of these grants. Thanks.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I'd like to say something in regards to Derek, please, if I may.
Go ahead.
And I think, Derek, I want to thank you for that attachment that you sent. I went through this. Now, the hazard pay, I know it's awaiting still on the House floor. I had been looking, I think I had discussed a little bit with one of my townships yesterday. And the supplemental budget that includes $100 million that they talked about for the first responders and the health workers, I think it still awaits on the Michigan Senate floor. And the Senate bill, which is the 690, I think it's supposed to be, they're going to be talking something about it, but I don't see, I don't know, Mac hasn't taken any position on the bill yet. So you think, I don't know, the question for Mr. Chairman is, do you think we'd hear something in the coming week, perhaps?
It's possible that we'll hear something. The Senate has already passed their version of Senate Bill 690. It moved to the House. The House Ways and Means Committee is reviewing it. There's been some language added. There's also been some cat added as to who would be funded. As Derek indicated, it currently states 911 and law enforcement. But the House is trying to sort out, the language on perhaps other individuals. Is it possible we would hear between now and the next meeting? Anything's possible. As Derek indicated, the bill may or may not fully fund this. And with that said, we would submit the remaining balance of whatever was not funded through this bill, to the COVID relief dollars that, we've talked about previously, that anything related to COVID, Doug's going to submit either via FEMA or Homeland or whatever other, process of submission. So in all likelihood, a good portion of this would be recaptured.
And Mr. Chairman, just to concur, I think the bill spends roughly about $1.25 billion of the CARES money, but that amount is subject to change, I've been told, based upon the negotiations. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a very fluid situation for sure on this up there in Lansing. So, but
Mark, this is Ruth.
yep.
I wanted to ask Derek or whoever knows about the comments that JP made in public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and he talked about the 3 friend of the court officers. And on the spreadsheet, I'm looking at the spreadsheet and it says friend of court, and I see the figures there. Now, I'm not sure if JP was asking for an additional 3 friend of the court officers, or was that already included in the friend of the court that's on the spreadsheet?
Derek, can you address that?
Well, I can tell you that all of the friend of the court employees who worked any hours over the course of the last 5 pays would be subject to $2 an hour hazard pay. And that includes the 3 employees that he mentioned. I don't know if he was requesting anything additional or not. That'd be a question for him. I can just tell you that there is something built in for those employees into this specific spreadsheet.
Commissioner Wiley, may I address that point? This is JP.
Sure, go ahead, JP.
I wasn't requesting anything special. I was hoping that the board would recognize the work that was done in my department, and it's just in support of the motion as made.
Appreciate that comment, JP, and the clarity.
Mr. Chairman, if
Go ahead.
in in response to Mr. Riddell, I just want to say this, that we are in very deep appreciation of what the staff does and what they do. So, and if there is anything, I think would be considered really on our due diligence if we haven't addressed that. So I think that is something I wanted to express, but I'm glad, Mr. Riddell was there, still around. And I wanted to just show that, we are in appreciation of the staff and how much they do. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so the other comment I wanted to make was that in this resolution 20-057, I'm good with it, except I think that we should add into the resolution wording that indicates that this money, where this money is coming from. It says the total cost of this hazard pay will be approximately $73,120. Well, I think we need to clarify that that money is coming from federal money that is COVID-19 related, that is being sent to the state, or COVID-19 money, so that it doesn't appear that that is, I don't want people to think that that's general fund money, or that we're taking that out of our tax general fund money. This is COVID-19 money that we will be reimbursed, either from FEMA or Homeland or whatever.
Ruth, I don't disagree with your thought process, but it'd be a dangerous thing to try and indicate within this resolution where the funding's coming from, when quite frankly, we're not 100% sure what percentage we're going to get from the state, what percentage we're going to get from FEMA or Homeland or some other program. So my intention of bringing this to you today was because we have discussed it the last couple meetings. I've had Derek and Carol working on this for several weeks. Several of the unions have approached me on it. Several other employers in the county have paid their people extra during the COVID stay home, stay safe period. And so that's why it's before you today.
Okay, so you're saying that you want it taken care of today because we have been working and working and working up to this to today. We don't want to put it off any longer because we've been working on it for several weeks. Is that, am I understanding you correctly?
Well, I think you know me well enough. I don't like dragging things on forever. And so we have talked about this now. If it's the pleasure of the board to wait until we know more about what the House is going to do with their version of Senate Bill 690, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that the reason I brought it forward is, we've kicked it around and kicked it around. I do think it's necessary that we do this, but the short answer is, Ruth, we don't have to do it today if the pleasure of the board is to wait for further information. But I do,
okay.
Ruth, I do want the employees to know that I am very much in favor of doing this, whether it gets done today or in 2 weeks. I just want everybody to understand this is something I feel very strongly about.
Okay, so therefore, if we pass this today, then Carol and Derek and everybody involved can go ahead and can get the money, the back pay, and can get the money to the employees now. Is that correct? Instead of holding it off for another 2 weeks, it puts money into their pockets.
Derek, will you want to address that, or?
Well, I assumed we would do it on the next payroll.
Okay.
Which would be the week of the 22nd, which, keep in mind, payroll gets done on that Monday, so that would still be prior to your next meeting. If you waited till next meeting, you'd probably have to wait another 2 weeks before it got dispersed.
Okay. I just,
Commissioner Wiley?
I think that
Stephanie, go ahead.
There is a possibility of special pays as well, Derek. We've done them in the past. It doesn't have to necessarily go right on a payroll.
Thank you for that comment.
I just feel like sending a message to our employees that we value them and what they did for us during COVID-19 and getting the money into their pockets as fast as we can. And I don't want to hold them up anymore. And I understand the process that we've been through. This just wasn't brought up today. This has been worked on for a while. And they need that money, and they need to be sent a message from us commissioners that we are backing them and we appreciate it. So I'm good with going forward with it today. I appreciate everybody considering my opinion. Thank you. Respectfully.
Stephanie,
Yes.
how much of a headache is it to do a special pay on this?
Well, that would be Carol, but she's pretty fast. I mean, it's not every employee, so we've done them in the past for different things like the sheriff's gun allowance or their cleaning allowance, our special pays.
Okay. I guess the reason I asked that, Steph, is, Ruth's comment about getting it in the hands of the employees, should we pass this, sooner than later, is probably most appreciated by our staff.
And now that we're pretty much 100% back to work, my staff can do the second side of the payroll that we do.
Okay. Thank you for those comments.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion, comments, or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment, please.
Go ahead.
I think this resolution that we're going to pass, I think it just gives a little ability to kind of say that we're at least retaining or helps keep our staff and value them, especially in the critical times of what they've done for us. So that's it.
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else? We will vote on 20-057.
Commissioner Carolyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 5-0. Bruce, under your report, there's a discussion item, and maybe you want to refer this to Derek, or maybe the two of you want to talk about it.
Yeah, Derek, we've got to adopt in our policy some gobbledygook, and that's basically what it amounts to, so that we are eligible for all this federal aid and so on and so forth. It's all federal required stuff. So Derek, if you want to go into details, but it's just a bunch of stuff we got to put in place, procedures that we follow, et cetera, that the feds require. And we've got to do those procedures if we're going to be eligible to be reimbursed. So Derek, fire away, buddy.
Yeah, so you should have resolution 16085, which was passed a few years back, and it essentially serves as our purchasing policy. It details the thresholds in which different levels of competition have to be met in order to procure a service or an item. All I want to do is kind of add the 3 or 4 paragraphs in that next attachment to that to create a larger policy. The 3 different items, they go over conflict of interest when it comes to purchasing goods and services. It goes over what we expect from a contractor that we do contract with, and it goes over, and this is the big one for the federal. They're all required from the federal government in order to utilize their grant funding. But the last one is the biggest one that they want. And it talks about utilizing their SAM.gov system for award management website to cross-reference contractors we're doing business with a list of debarred or suspended contractors that they keep. So that's essentially the three things that are being added or being requested to be added. And as Commissioner Caswell stated, the federal grants require this language in writing. A lot of this is, I think, practice by our department heads anyway, but this puts it in writing.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Derek a question?
Please go ahead.
So Derek, are you just asking us to amend Resolution 16085, or are we going to take the vote as a new resolution and give it an updated number?
Well, Jody might be able to help a little bit here, but whatever's the easiest. I would like to see it maybe amended as a large policy that 16085 and the new wording. I just don't know the best way to do that.
So Jody, for a comment, please.
So when you guys pass resolutions, they are all actually considered policy. So if you are going to change Resolution 16085, which is from 2016, it really needs to be a new resolution with a new resolution number amending this resolution to add the proper verbiage. Because the new resolution would override the old, and I think it's cleaner. Somebody goes looking for this in the past, and we're gonna say, oh yeah, we've got one from 2016, but it doesn't, it wouldn't have any of that information in there because that was done in 2020.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought we were going to have
It really needs to be a new resolution amending this to add that verbiage. That would be fine.
That be Resolution 0058.
Well, I think to keep this clean, Derek, does this have to be done in a certain time frame, or can this come back to us all put together as with the new resolution number at the next meeting?
I can bring it back.
I think that sounds good if we can bring it back.
Yeah, we'll have it in a cleaner format put together with the resolution number. And that way, the new version, if you look at the top of 16085, that actually amended 94-011, and it's dated as such. And so for tracking purposes, the new one would be the same way, so that, like Jody just said, if someone goes looking, they can actually look back. So it'll keep it cleaner if we do a new resolution and combine it and bring it forward with a resolution number. So Derek, that's your task between now and 2 weeks. Along with many others, right? Is there any other questions on this discussion item? Okay, we will have it as an agenda item, probably under Bruce, or we will do it under Bruce at that time. So, anything else, Bruce? Okay. Anybody got a question for Bruce?
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question for Bruce, if I may.
Go ahead.
Bruce, I know you talked a little bit about the Lifeways, and of course you talked those critical thing about the crisis residential unit, but somewhere I was wanting to hear, did you receive any kind of contract from Lifeways in reference to that?
I didn't understand your question. Did I receive any contact from Lifeways in reference to what?
Contracts.
contracts.
You mean as far as ambulance service?
Yes, Bruce.
All I had was a conversation with them. They told me they had repeatedly gone back to Reading and tried to get Reading to sign a contract where they would reimburse them, you know, the difference between what the trip actually cost and what Medicaid was reimbursing them. And they never got any response from Reading at all. So they finally just said, okay, we're done with that. We'll move on and we'll provide our own transportation. So that's what they're going to do.
Okay.
Okay, well, I sit on the committee for the Ambulance Association, and I haven't seen any such proposed contracts from Lifeways with Reading. Haven't seen it, haven't heard of it. Also, there are safety issues that would need to be addressed that have never been addressed either, as far as transporting these types of patients. So I think we don't need to be throwing anybody from the Ambulance Association under the bus. I think what Lifeways is proposing with having their own unit is an excellent idea. And this has been talked about for quite some time. So I finally am glad to see that they're finally moving forward with the idea. Thank you.
And, you know, in my opinion, I think ways, you know, they need to address the staff safety issue, and they've failed to address, obviously, in the conversations. Do you think you can question them? Can you send an email to them and ask them?
Any other comments? Okay, well, Namu, that brings us up to you for your committee report, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity. Okay, so let me just begin with always, has been always a busy time frame, even with this COVID-19. Not much has changed for my townships that I'm serving very humbly. We as a community in District 5 have been covering a lot of aspects. So let me just first begin with the committee, and then I'll come down to the townships that I've attended so far after the last meeting for the Board of Commissioners. So a couple of days back, I attended in person the medical examiner investigation team. We met on June 4th, and so a couple of things were talked about. They had their very first successful run to the morgue facility in Jackson. So June 8th, which is yesterday, so they were going to have a dry run, but they didn't anticipate, but they did have an autopsy. So today's Tuesday, so they'd be performing their very first autopsy in Jackson County. And just kind of some more updates in regards with, as you do know, Sarah, who works very closely with Dr. Casson and all the examiners and all the investigators, she is now the new coordinator for all the 3 counties, which is Lenawee County, the Jackson County, and Hillsdale County, which is good for us, saves us some dollars. It's good for Hillsdale County. The Jackson County, where our morgue is going to be transferred, which is at, I'm forgetting, Elm Road. That's where the morgue will be transferred in Jackson. It's very feasible for us because it's the same distance as we used to cover from Hillsdale to Adrian. It's the same distance from Hillsdale to Jackson. So we haven't endured much in that. Couple of new information. Heritage is the company that will cover all the transfers for autopsies with the other counties, but for the Hillsdale County, we're still doing the MOM, which is the month of the morgue. MOM, that's what they're called. Funeral homes have been working very well with us, and we're really happy to convey that. Dr. Casson covered up some information in regards with COVID-19. And a couple of statements that he made was, somewhere or the other, we all have been infected with COVID-19, but some of us have survived, and we didn't have to have any treatments because we have enough antibodies in us that actually has helped us with the COVID-19. But many of us didn't know if we had. So you talked a little bit about the CDC guidelines. We didn't have any autopsy cases on that particular board meeting that I attended. Usually I like being part of the autopsy study with them as a board representative there and a liaison. Well, we didn't have it that day. So that's for the MEI. Moving forward, yesterday, I was at the Pittsford Township meeting. They met, and just a couple of things I wanted to talk about. The Pittsford Public Library, they're still closed till June 15th. And they're following the governor's order. And so they're not going to open until after they hear something. So they're closed to June 15th. And then a couple of other things were talked about, as in the Citizen of the Year was honored and during the Memorial Weekend, and it was somebody from that same area in Pittsford was Dr. Leon Wolf. And so those were a couple of reports that were discussed. Plus, they're doing a little bit of work within the township. Some front doors have been worked on, railing for the back door steps, just because if you know, Pittsford Township is a very small township, and they're getting ready in preparation if we were to have, for the elections, for people to come in. So they're kind of making all the outside railing a little bit more sturdier for the back door steps for the elderly and for the people who are actually going to be needing that. So those are the couple of things that they're doing at Pittsford Township. Other than that, moving forward, the Sheriff Department, as you see, the May activity report's been sent to you in your packet. And as you see that there's a drop in number for meal service, emergency, non-emergency calls, and inmate under the circumstances of COVID-19. So the numbers are small. Moving forward to the other, there's been an update on the PFN conversation with the 911 Central Dispatch. I sent you all a copy of that email as well. And they shared with us that whatever work they've been doing with the copper 911 connections to their public safety answering point, which is the PSAP, they were transferred by AT&T over to PFN. And according to Doug, the transition went very smoothly with only just a little bit of minor adjustments during the whole process. And what else? They did notify us that the telephone company Frontier Communications, they filed for bankruptcy, so they've received permission from the court to continue to pay the surcharges they collect during their attempted reorganization and recovery. So just for the 911 Central Dispatch, that's a good news because they cannot afford any reduction or any kind of interruption for their revenue stream. And according to their department, the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed down the issuing and mailing of checks by some of the telephone service providers. So a couple of good news just within that. I always like to just celebrate people. Dispatcher Tommy Smith has been promoted to supervisor to replace another personnel. And because Carlene was retiring, she announced that she was retiring. And so congratulations to them. And in regards with Fire Association, we haven't had a meeting. They have it quarterly. So we're going to be meeting July 3rd week. And I'll send you back the dates when we'll have it. The last is I'd like to touch base on the County Planning Commission. The board meeting will take place on June 15th. And so we're going to have an in-person meeting at the MSU Extension. And I did send every one of you an email on it. So the MSU Extension office will be meeting in person at 20 Care Drive. This is only just for the board members. The public is welcome virtually. And for that, to participate virtually, we've also sent a link, and there's a link on the Hillsdale County website with the meeting ID and how to get in to the meeting. A couple of things that we're going to be discussing. We'll be discussing on the county master plan, and we're going to be reviewing section by section. So we're currently reviewing section 1 and 2. And that's what when we last met, we'd been working on that. And moving forward with the last meeting that we had.
Excuse me a minute, if I may interrupt. Your meeting for the 15th, I guess I would encourage you to check to see if this room that, you know, here at the county office building is available. You can check with David on that, but I believe it is available. But check with David. We will have a screener at this building to screen people coming in on the 15th. There will not be a screener out at MSUE. And my discussion with Matt Shane is we're going to keep that door out there locked, and people will only be allowed in by appointment. So that could be a problem as far as using that meeting room. So you may check on that, please.
All right, thank you for that point. And I will be discussing this with the team, and especially Kim Jackson. Like I said, we will be meeting in person, so we could always change that to meeting at the county building. And like I said, we're keeping the numbers low, so we're not having any public, but we can try to bring in the meeting from the MSU extension lower level to the county building. And let me discuss it with Kim, and then I'll send you all an email again that we've changed the location. Is that okay, Mark?
There, I got it. Yes, that would be advisable just from a safety standpoint, because we still need to stay vigilant. We need to start opening up, which we are. But with the fact that we will have a screener here, I think it'd be better advised if you hold your meeting here, you know, so, but thank you for your efforts.
Not a problem. Thank you for reiterating that, and thank you for giving us the ability to change that venue and have it possibly at the county building. And I will be confirming and sending you an email on that, and copy to all the board of commissioners after talking to Kim. So with that note, moving forward, so we will be having that. We're going section by section with the master plan. Section 1, section 2 is what we're looking at. A couple of other things, you know, Village of Waldron, they're creating their planning commission. And so they will be, you know, they will be sending in whatever they have updated, and a couple of whatever they have been reiterating or updating, they will send it to the county. Same thing with the City of Litchfield recreation plan. They made a fantastic recreation plan, and I want to comment on to that. I want to appreciate the City of Litchfield for what they did. We reviewed their entire recreation plan, and we felt that was very, very good. And they put it very well together, and all of us as members, we agreed it was really a nicely done plan. And they have and it's on their website. They sent us a copy as well, that we would be putting it onto our website as well, the city county website, I mean the Hillsdale County website. So it's the City of Litchfield recreation plan for 2020. They did very well. Couple of other things, you know, talking about the timely receipt of materials from cities, villages, townships. So what we did was we included a letter that was presented with requesting any of the ordinances, etc. And Kim Jackson has been so good at it that she, rather than sending it online via email to people, because some townships don't operate electronically. For example, Pittsford Township, that's one of my townships. So we decided to send everybody a hard copy, a letter. And this letter basically presents any requests of any ordinances that they have updated or any changes, and for any kind of compilation of the county website. So, and so yeah, so we went ahead with all of that, and it was really nice. A lot of good feedback that we received. Some counties, some townships are in the process of sending any of their updates, and so we're looking forward to that. A little bit that was talked about last meeting when we met. We always like to have this in regards with the MISS DIG 811 information for the municipal website. We want to be able to have this. We probably will have it on our agenda again. It's a really good handout that we're trying to think that we could make. And because it will be very helpful to be handed out to, we can hand it out to the building permit applications or people who are coming for that. And I think it's a good use handout for any board meetings as well. And I think most of the townships, they appreciate that, the Miss Dig 811 information. So that was something we talked about, and we will have that also in place. A couple of new board members, we were happy to welcome them, especially we were looking, if you remember last time, we were desperately trying to fill some positions. And so we did fill in some position on the agriculture representative position side. We were looking for the education vacancy side. So that has been filled. And that we were looking for the very last one was the city/village representative for the Hillsdale County Planning Commission. So that was filled as well. So we're really appreciative of everybody's responses. And yes, we are still working on the fact, a lot of people have mentioned to us, why don't you have your meetings in the evening so we can have, better ability to discuss with public there. And I think we'll look forward to working on that as well. I strongly that, and I'm in favor of having a change in the time frame, of course, with everybody's, because again, we're all community driven, so we'd like to just do it as a community, and as a board we can decide and come up. So we're really excited working on the County Planning Commission, and we look forward to resuming on June 15th. And I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me know that the room might be available that day on the county, and so there's a screen out there. We might be going that route, so I will be confirming with you on that shortly and sending everybody an email to reiterate this conversation. So with that, I end and I conclude my reports. Is there any questions for me?
Okay, thank you for that report. Julie, Ruth, anyone know where we're at on the census? I think Julie, you indicated last meeting we were at 60-some%.
Yep, it's about 67%.
Okay.
That's right at this point, unless Ruth has any updated information from that.
I heard that it was like 64%, and it was like 3% lower than what the state is. It's like 67. So Julie and I are in the same ballpark. It's in the 60s.
Okay, we just need to keep encouraging people to get that completed, folks. I appreciate your efforts. Derek, looking at my notes here, we've got to regress a little bit. We had another item that you and I needed to discuss with the board, reference the insurance, health insurance, and the HSA.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to bring it up. I don't know that you necessarily have to make a decision today about anything. But I think it's important to start talking about how we will treat new hire employees who opt into our HSA insurance plan. At the beginning of the year, we said all employees their deductible would be 100% funded by the county in 2 equal payments. That's kind of how we've been operating up until right now. Everyone who has decided to opt into the HSA is under the impression that their HSA deductible is 100% funded. However, there will potentially be a situation where somebody becomes eligible for insurance later in the year, like October, November, December. At that point, does the board still want to fund deductibles at 100%? Example being, someone becomes eligible for health insurance December 1st. Do you still want to put $1,400 into their HSA, even though there's only 30 days left in the year? That's the kind of scenario that I can envision us having at some point. Additionally, if someone becomes eligible, I don't know, July 1st, how much money do we want to fund them? Do we still want 100% of their deductible? Do we want to prorate it? I talked to 44 North, Dina from 44 North, and asked her common things that she's seen. She said she's seen it both ways, where everybody remains 100% funded, but she says it's also super common to see pro rata applied. So if you don't become eligible until July, you would only get 50% funded in your HSA, even though you are still exposed to the entire deductible. And I don't know, that's the scenario. That's what's up for discussion. So.
Mark, you're muted.
Thank you.
I saw your lips moving.
Thank you. I'm trying to be diligent about muting. So Jody just mentioned a good point to me that that may be something I'll have to reach out to the union on, because it's in the union contract that we have to, the insurance has to be comparable or comparable. And so if the person takes the HSA versus the other policy, if we don't fund that, have we voided that comparable or comparable language? So I have to reach out to Gary King on that, but I wanted Derek to bring this forward to you because this is something we had not discussed as far as when people get hired, throughout the course of the year and how to handle this. So Derek and I will talk about it some more. We'll include the finance committee. I'll also get a hold of Gary King. I'll shoot him an email and see what his recommendations are from a contractual standpoint. And we'll bring this back to you at the next meeting. If we need a policy change, or we're going to need some guidance, if nothing else, for Derek on this issue. So we'll have to have some sort of policy change or at least change some language to assist in that manner. So be thinking about it. If you've got any suggestions, comments, or questions, shoot them to Derek or I, and we'll certainly bring this up again. So thank you, Derek.
Mark?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just got a question. If somebody was to be hired after July 1st, so it would be in the second half of the year.
Right.
Find out whether or not we could give them the 700, which would be half of what they would normally get, to 1,400.
Right.
And then if they have a medical situation arise and they exceed that $700, so that, let's say they have pretty big medical bills, then could we then, when they submit those bills, advance the other 700? So that they'll get the 1,400 if they need it, because they have medical bills. But if they're hired after the middle of the year, they would only get half of the 700. Find out whether or not that's something. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Just a thought.
So basically half with advance, or with the second half if needed.
If needed, yeah.
Okay, I'll check on that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No matter who
Well, we're doing that right now.
You prorate it, in December, you prorate what they get, but if they did have medical emergency, then
Well, that
would be fair.
That idea is kind of similar, Derek, isn't it, to what we're currently doing if someone blows through that first part prior to that second payment?
It's similar, but currently everyone is getting the full deductible regardless. The question
true.
is more
Right.
when they get it. We do advance it if it's required that they need their second half sooner than when we're scheduled to give it to them.
Correct. So it's similar, but not quite. Yeah, I follow you. Thank you.
Mark, may I say something? This is Stephanie.
Yes, please.
Those people that you're talking about right now have worked the whole year. The ones you're anticipating are only starting in the middle of the year. So that's not even, I think it should be prorated. Not
Similar, but not the
100%.
same. Yep. I agree. So you think it should be prorated then?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll take it up with Gary King and I'll see what he comes back and we'll proceed from there. But I appreciate the input from all.
And besides, they have a 90-day, I believe, probation time before they're even eligible if they start in the middle of the year. So they're not going to be eligible right away.
That's why when I talked, I used the phrase when they become eligible rather than when they were hired.
Correct. All good points. Thank you all. Okay. I have one action item, 20 dash. It went away. You got it, Andy? Thank you. 20-56. I had it up on my iPad. To the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we, the Board of Commissioners, authorize Mark E. Wiley, Chairman, to sign the service contract with ADA Security Incorporated and ADA Detective Agency to provide security services at Hillsdale County buildings. Respectfully submitted. Move for adoption. Do I have a support?
Support, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. So just to give you a quick update, we've had the screeners in here one day last week, one day already this week for the courts. The courts had 4 days that they needed ahead of us opening. All employees are back to work effective yesterday, but and I say we collectively, the elected and department head conference calls that Julie and I have been sitting on, decided that it was prudent that we have kind of a phase in. So everybody's back to work this week. The screeners will be in place on the 15th, which is what I originally discussed with ADA anyways, because of the stay home, stay safe till the 12th. And so we will open the buildings on the 15th, and the screeners will be located at District Court, at the courthouse, and at the Cobb. The Cobb will be single entry at the back door. And we're asking all visitors and employees to go through the screener. And if someone's here before the screener's here, they need to circle back at some point. Doug and I and Dave have all talked. Marnie's going to provide some binders. Dave and Derek are putting together the binders for the security or for the screeners. And in that binder will be a sheet. And yes, JP is still on. I want to thank JP for putting together a better sheet that actually has signature blocks at the bottom. They will be able to sign each day. The employee will be able to sign each day. And then we've got to maintain those. So like the sheriff's department's going to maintain theirs, 911, and all the ones for The courthouse and the Cobb will be maintained at the clerk's office for now. Record keeping's paramount based on future requirements, you know, from the state or from the feds. For how long, we don't know, but Doug and I are keeping an eye on that, and we'll, you know, that's kind of a moving target right now. But that's kind of a further explanation of what's going on with that whole process. And this firm ADA will be providing those services for us. There's a couple minor changes I indicated to Ruth yesterday that will be added to the contract. It was some legal language that is actually statutory language according to Mr. Thompson. And when I get that added in there, that'll be sent out to everybody, but it's just legalese. But once that's taken care of, that's the contract I will sign. So, but is there any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So the ADA, they're going to be on a payroll, I see. So have we thought about how much this is going to cost us, and if this is going to be covered by the state with the COVID-19, you know, monies involved?
The understanding is right now that it will be paid for under the COVID funds. Also, the proposal was for $16.95 an hour. ADA Securities takes care of all the fringes, the payroll. We're basically contracting with them, and they provide the service. We will be billed, I believe it was either monthly or bi-monthly. I can't remember. It's in the contract. So.
Do you know how long we have to have the contract with ADA?
Right now, Commissioner, that's a moving target. What I discussed with them was somewhere between now and December, because we don't know if there's going to be a fall reoccurrence of the COVID. So I talked to him about a 6-month deal. We do have an option to, you know, give them a 30-day notice and we're out of this. So, you know, it's a moving target, Commissioner. So
is it fair to say we're having this contract with the ADA for as long as the orders from the governor come down, correct?
No, I wouldn't say that, because right now, none of the governor's orders go out to December, but we do need to stay vigilant. If there is some information from CDC that indicates we no longer have to do screening, then we will discontinue. Defer to either the CDC or the health department. And Doug and I will stay in contact with both, you know, as far as direction on the screening of not only employees, but visitors. So.
I have a comment, Mark.
Go ahead.
This is Ruth. I just would like to encourage everybody involved, employees and visitors and everybody going in and out of the buildings during this time, to cooperate with each other and with the ADA people. You know, they don't know us, and we can't just walk up and expect that, you know, that they're going to know who we are, because they're probably not. But this is just something that we all have to cooperate and do our best with. And I'd encourage everybody to have that type of an attitude going in. Allow yourself an extra few minutes. If you're in a hurry and you're trying to get to an office or trying to get something done, maybe allow yourself a few extra minutes, because you know you're going to be held up at the door. They're just doing their job, and we're doing our due diligence for the safety of our employees and for the people entering the building. So everybody just keep calm and carry on and cooperate, and things will go smoother, I think. Please. Thank you.
Comments, Ruth. Go ahead, Nemo.
And Mark, so the last question I have is, so the payroll that they're going to be in, or the contract that we have, is the money is coming from the COVID-19 relief fund, correct? None of them is coming from our general fund or taxpayer money, correct?
Well, we'll probably have to pay for it up front, and we'll file for reimbursement, okay? It's not a seamless process. You're not going to get the money to pay them. You're going to have to file for reimbursement. So indirectly, yes, we'll pay for it out of general fund, and then we'll file for the reimbursement.
Yeah, my only concern is as long as we are reimbursed for
we're going to do our best, Commissioner, to get the reimbursement. Currently, the recommendations from MMRMA is to have the screener in place. The governor's, directions are the same. The health department, we're doing our best to try and comply so that we're primarily so we remain eligible for any reimbursement possible. So. Any further questions or comments?
Mark?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
In the contract, it says in the term, the agreement shall commence on the date specified above and shall continue in effect for a period of 6 months. It then goes on in the next paragraph and it talks about default. It says ADA reserves the right to terminate this agreement at any time after 48 hours prior written notice to the client, based on the client's failure to pay any monies hereof. If during the term of this agreement, either party may terminate this agreement with 48 hours notice, prior written notice, there shall be filed by or against either party for bankruptcy. I don't see anywhere in this contract where it says that we have the right to end it after 30 days. All I see is that we're committed to 6 months. Did I misunderstand you?
There is, in the rate of change, the 2 paragraphs above that, the last sentence, in the event of a rate of increase, client shall have the right to terminate this agreement with 60 days. I asked him to change that to 30 days and asked him to change that. That was one of the things that, like I said, there was a couple things that Mr. Thompson asked us to clean up. And that was one of them, that we would have the ability to exit within 30 days. So that will get changed in that paragraph.
Okay, and it will have nothing to do, being able to exit will have nothing to do with the event of a rate increase.
Correct. That line will be stricken. Or not the line itself, but in the event of rate increase, that'll be, excuse me, that'll be stricken, and it'll strictly read, client shall have the right to terminate this agreement with 30 days written notice.
That's in the new contract. It'll be sent to us.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. I was hoping to have the latest version today, but everything seems to be taking a little longer these days. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Yes. Jody, thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Brown? Yes. Did you say yes?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines? Thank you. Commissioner Wiley?
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell? Commissioner Caswell?
Hey, Bruce, you there?
Yes, as long as there's a 30-day out.
So is your answer, is your vote yes?
As long as there's out.
Thank you. And Commissioner Carolyn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see, what else did I have? Wanted to ask everyone if they felt safe with having the next meeting on the 23rd in this wonderful room that Jody and I are sitting in.
Yes.
Yes, I'm fine with it.
Yes. Yes.
Bruce?
I don't care.
Well, unless there's a huge change, we'll plan on the next meeting being here on the 23rd. The only other thing I had here on my notes was that, and I'll discuss that, Julie and I can discuss it with the elected and department heads. We need to create a temporary policy as part of the personnel policy concerning the screening, you know, the process of screening and the employees signing in. I guess that's more of something that you can think about. You can email me, you can comment now, whatever your pleasure is. I guess at this point in time, I'd like to see how it works without creating a temporary policy. Okay. If you've got any thoughts on that, feel free to shoot me an email. We're back to public comment. Anyone on that wishes to make a comment?
Hi, Mark.
The post majority is marked because technically.
Who's there, please?
Chairman Wiley, this is Chris from District Court.
Early.
Chris, go ahead.
Just for clarification, Chairman, you mentioned that all employees were back to work, but it has come to our attention that an office or maybe more than one office is not staffed for the entire day. We've gotten some phone calls where they haven't been able to reach some of the offices. So I just wanted to clarify what your expectations were when you said that all employees were to be back to work yesterday.
What was discussed on the conference call last week, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, but everybody had agreed that we'd have staff back in on the 8th, with the exception if someone didn't feel comfortable as far as social distancing, and that we would resume normal operations on the 15th. Is that your recollection, Julie?
Yes. Yes, it is.
So I guess, Chris, if there's an office that's not open, I guess shoot me an email and I'll follow up on that, please.
Okay, thank you. We've just had some complaints about not being able, they call us and that they can't reach one of the offices. So Judge just asked that I.
Yep.
Okay, Judge just asked that I inquire. So.
Yep. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other comments?
Hi, this is Jean-Paul Rudal again. I just want to say on behalf of my employees, thank you for voting all the commissioners and recognizing their efforts. And as a manager, it's great to work with such nice employees, and I'm glad the Board of Commissioners recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. thank you all for attending. Additional business. Bruce, you have anything?
Just to clarify my remarks earlier, I don't believe I said anything about the 4 ambulance services. The issue that I brought forward from Lifeways was strictly the emergency unit. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie?
I just wanted to remind everybody that the Hillsdale Conservation District is having the 2020 scrap tire collection and electronics collection. That's going to happen June, let's see, why doesn't it say here? 25th and 26th from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's a Thursday and Friday. It will be at the county fairgrounds, but you have to register, so you have to have an appointment in order to be able to participate. And obviously you have to be a county resident or landowner, and you can register at 517-849-9890, extension 3, or you can register online at Hillsdale CD, which stands for Conservation District, at macd.org. Thank you.
There we go. Commissioner Carlin, additional business?
Well, just want to thank everybody today. I think it's a good start, and I look forward to the next meeting on the 23rd to convene in person. And, we look forward to having a very smooth transition, and I'm very positive about this. And I really want to thank all the District 5 constituents for being so patient. And I've just been so blessed just visiting all the townships and the village of Waldron. So it's been remarkable, very educating, and I really look forward to serving them for many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown, additional business?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how Dave Holton set us up with the Cisco WebEx to do our meetings during the COVID-19, and he told us that we were using Cisco WebEx because they were giving governments 90 days for free. So I feel that we're probably, probably right at that 90, getting close to that right now, and then we're going to be going back in person on the 23rd. But I just wanted to bring that up and make sure that we were getting this, and thank him for looking out for us, and thank all the employees. I'm glad we were able to get that pay going for them today, and for looking out for Hillsdale County, and for everybody's efforts throughout this. It's recognized and it's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And I want to thank everybody for their patience and their efforts during this as well. And a special thanks to David and Doug and Randy. We've accommodated different things. And I do know that Stephanie's told me the drop boxes have helped. And so Randy got those. That's going to be a permanent addition, so that people can, drop things off after hours or before hours. So there's some, and the shielding that's been put up in the offices, it all looks nice. I think it's a good permanent addition that'll help us for years to come for everyone's safety and well-being. So with that said, I thank you all for attending, and we stand adjourned.